it starts with family, regardless of wealth, success, failure, you name it. That is one thing that I know I always want to be part of our lives. While it's important to be a successful and participating member of society, there's ways to live your life, and you can be adventurous and dream big and have everything that you could possibly want.
Creating that financial freedom and the realization that I can take my time in life, and it's about having a healthy lifestyle and a healthy mindset. Just having that personal balance for me is the healthiest thing that we can do for ourselves and our families.
Welcome to the Path to Wealth, the show about well-being, fulfillment, and financial freedom. And I'm your host, Hannes Henschel. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Path to Wealth. Today we have two very special guests from Texas, Emily Cortright and Adam Roberts. I've known them for a couple of years already, and they've been syndicating multifamily deals for the last 5 years. Emily has been in real estate for over a decade now. So welcome to the show, Emily and Adam.
Thank you so much.
Hans, for having us.
So, the two of you really exemplify a life well lived, to me, at least from, the little bit of what I've seen over the last couple of years and talking to you on the different networking events where we met. I mean, I'm kind of stunned how you tie it all together while also being husband and wife, and you have a family edition lately. You have a 1-year-old now. So how do you tie it all together? Maybe we start at the family aspect, because for me personally, it's so interesting to see people that do it, husband and wife, kind of in their relationship, which I would say is rather challenging based on what I've seen with my parents. But maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea what that is like for you.
Absolutely. So we have been working side by side as a husband and wife team since 2018. And at first, honestly, we both tried to do the same roles. We tried to share roles. And what we found was about a year into that, there really needed to be a separation of roles and responsibilities. So we benchmarked other couples that work together in real estate and found that we really need to find our paths and our swim lanes. And so we wrote down the different tasks that were incorporated in our business and really separated out and made the decision that I would be more of the back end, investor relations, banking, paperwork, computer side, and then Adam would be more of the operations, speaking with the property management company, that front end role in our business. Once we separated our roles and responsibilities, there was a lot less headbutting, and honestly, I think we worked a lot better after that. And we knew from the very beginning, once we said, okay, we need to separate our roles, we knew that it maybe wasn't going to be perfect right off the bat, and that it may take some iterations in figuring out the best way to split the responsibilities. So it took about a year for us to work together and say, you know what, it's time for us to split up our roles. But since 2019, we have really found our swim lanes. And that has made working as a married couple in the same business together much more in much more, there's a lot more happiness in the day-to-day work. And so we do, as with work, it's a really work-life balance. We do talk a lot of work. There isn't a lot of separation there. We'll work weekends when we need to, we work nights when we need to, but there's also the times when we take off and we're gone for 5 days or 6 days with the family and pretty disconnected. But then it's catching up when you get back. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, tying the family aspect into it, I think that just comes from even before real estate. Family's been extremely important to both Emily and I, and that was something that attracted me to Emily in the first place. Just how important the family unit was with her parents and her grandparents who are still alive, and her siblings, and then my family is the same way. So it kind of transcends business in a way, And I think for both of us, that's something that we enjoy, is having that as a top priority in our lives.
So is that something that came natural to you to kind of make that distinction? Like, okay, now we're on a family trip and, we're fully checked out. And now we kind of roll up the sleeves and we have those night shifts together. Or is it something you kind of had to line out for each other? Does it feel natural to both of you when you're on the same page when it comes to business? Or is there sometimes we're like, hey, I actually would like to have maybe a dedicated romantic night tonight instead of going head in on the
Talking
real
about,
estate
yeah,
again.
yeah. Well, I think we Emily and I both grew up in a corporate environment, and an operations environment that was based upon completing tasks and ownership. And so whether that meant, working nights, weekends, holidays, there were many years where I worked on Christmas Day in a manufacturing facility, just because that was my role. And so I would say we got used to that. Now, where life is different today, I think we fully have embraced the lifestyle business aspect that real estate has afforded us. But still, we still embrace the ownership model. And so, to Emily's point, as for anybody who's an entrepreneur and running their own business, you're not done until the task is done. You're not done until your clients are well fed or what have you. But real estate is a lifestyle business. So if I can and want to take 3 days off the grid, I absolutely will. Or if, I need to attend some family event today and take a half day, I don't have to ask anybody. Right. And so I'd say that's a very enjoyable aspect.
And to give an example, one of the lessons learned from my early days in real estate, so I self-managed our own rental properties. And I knew that if I was gone for 5 days, there needed to be coverage if there was a maintenance item. So I made sure to communicate to all of my tenants, I will be out of town the next 5 days. If you have any maintenance requests, please contact this person. And making sure that coverage is there, I think is really important. And you kind of scale it up to the business owner aspect in multifamily syndications, and whether it's our partners now who we leverage if we're out of town, if there's a major question, whether it's in an out of office email or pre-communicating, just saying here's the person to contact while I'm away. If it's not an emergency, I'll get to it when I get back.
And on a personal level, do you feel like it's that black and white to you? Like, or is there moments where Adam is like, hey, I don't want to talk business? Or maybe it's Emily, where it's just like, it's enough for the day.
Well, I think we take great pride in the business, to the point that you made at the start of the show. When you build something from a foundation up that's taken 10 plus years, we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that, the customer is handled, the client is happy, and things of that nature. And, to that end, I mean, there's always some level of expectation that we need to meet, and we take great pride in that. And I think we're fortunate that we can still have a lifestyle that allows us to get away and do things on our own schedule.
Kind of rolling it back a little bit from here. Obviously, you didn't start with having that freedom that you currently have around the lifestyle. How did your journey start? Like, when in life did you have that epiphany that, like, there is a chance to live life on your terms? And kind of who was the driving force in that? And where came that hunger from?
Well, we were living in California around 2011 to 2013 timeframe on a work rotation with GE. And Adam invited me to go to a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar in the middle of the week, a little 2-hour seminar. And
was that a date night?
Probably, yes. And he asked me to meet him there. He said it was on investing. He didn't tell me much about it. And I said, okay, that's great. I like investing. I invest in my 401k and stocks. And so I show up to the hotel and I asked for the investing place. or the investing conference, and they're like, "Do you mean the real estate investing?" I'm like, "No. I mean like the investing seminar." And they're like, "Well, we only have a real estate seminar tonight." And I was like, "This is weird. I didn't come here to learn about real estate." But sure enough, I go up to the room, and Adam's waiting out there and for me, and I'm like, "We're not going to invest in real estate. Are you crazy?" And he's like, "No, just come in and listen." So I was pretty skeptical at first, but literally after that 2-hour introduction, it opened my eyes to some of the powers of real estate investing, because I'm an engineer by trade. I could see the math, and the math
Yeah.
was amazing with, oh, people can make money doing this. So that turned into a weekend training course, and that really got the wheels turning. And then within, I would say 6 months after that, we found out that GE was selling off the businesses that we were in. And we were going to go through a disposition. We couldn't go back to headquarters. And that gave us the kick in the butt that we needed to make a life change. And
Yeah.
Adam started looking for jobs. He found an aerospace job in Fort Worth. We had learned about Texas in the Robert Kiyosaki seminar, and all they had said was Texas is such a hot market. And so we're like, okay, let's go to
And
Texas and
that's
start.
10 years ago, and we're still
Yes.
saying Texas is a hot market.
Yeah, that's right.
So I quit my job in 2013. We moved to Texas for Adam's role, and I started our real estate investing business. At the time, we knew that we could afford to live on one paycheck in Texas because it's very affordable here. And so I just had that mentality of, if this doesn't work out, I'll just go get another engineering job. And
Yeah.
there, we'll still be able to put food on the table and pay our mortgage with one salary.
I mean, that's really interesting. Why were you so what is the word? Maybe reluctant about the original real estate investing thesis? Is it because the latest crash just 3 years prior that you were like, real estate is like hot iron that we shouldn't touch? Or
It was just so foreign to me because
yeah,
none of my family invested in real estate. I had never been taught to invest in real estate. I had the very traditional upbringing of invest in your 401k, work at the same company for 30 or 40 years, have a pension, live off of that. And I had never had any introduction to real estate investing. So it was just, it wasn't something that clicked as an option for me as a normal working class person.
so speaking about family, was there anybody who particularly nurtured this in you, Adam, given that you were kind of the one who initiated that Robert Kiyosaki event first, or was that your curiosity, your hunger that eventually led you to go there?
Really, there were probably two major influences. One, when I was in high school or thereabouts, my father started to teach me how to budget. How to plan for the grocery bill and the car payment and the mortgage and all that. So for a couple of years there, when I was a younger guy, we would put together spreadsheets, and he would say, "Okay, well, here's how much money you make, and here's what you need to spend your money on to pay the bills." And so I had those, and then when I went to college, we would continue doing that, and he started to, in our spreadsheets, he started to add a rental property to the income section every year. So every 12 months, there'd be a rental property added. And then our spreadsheets always went out 10 years. So in this case, the draft that he sent me had, these 10 rental properties that I had acquired in this spreadsheet as a projection. And I was kind of blown away by the financials that were in there. And I didn't really have a baseline for it, but I just, I think he had maybe each property making a couple $100 a month. And it was quite astonishing to see what 10 rental properties could do compared to, say, your job over a period of time. So that was one. And then when I went to work at GE as an intern back during college, I ended up renting a house with a bunch of other interns, and our landlord was another intern. And so it was interesting. We had this friend who owned the house, and we all, GE basically just cut us checks for our stipend, our living stipend. And I think they gave us like $800 a month or some such thing. And there were
And you gave
six
it
of us.
all to the intern.
Yeah, there were six of us living in the house, and we were talking one night over a couple drinks, and I did the math. I'm like, wow, we're sending you thousands of dollars a month. I asked him, I said, well, what's your mortgage payment? And he was like, oh, I think it's like $900 a month. And it just clicked all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, actually, my dad, because I told him, my dad started referring to himself as my poor dad, and he started referring to this intern as my rich dad. and ever since then, I just knew that real estate had something special for us.
So, but also, Emily, you mentioned that previously, whenever you wanted to leave town, you basically had to give everybody notice, including your tenants. I'm like, hey, I want to be gone for 5 days. So what was your natural progression? Obviously, now you're in the multifamily real estate space for the obvious reasons that we all know, but maybe you can speak a little bit about that, what that progression was like for you to scale it up from single family to multifamily.
Yes, as we've scaled with large multifamily, one of the benefits is that we have full-time third-party property management, and they take care of all the leasing, the maintenance, everything in that regard. And the asset managers or the deal sponsors, which is our role, is not necessarily a role where things have to get done today. If it's more of the big picture, you're implementing the business plan. You're making sure the investor communications go out on time, and the distribution. So things are fairly predictable in terms of the schedule each month and on a yearly cycle with taxes and K1s, for example. So it's very predictable. And I know, kind of going back to Adam's point about making sure that the tasks are done, I know looking out a week or two that my investor update is due on the 15th of the month, and then distributions are due on the 25th of the month. And as long as I can pre-plan and I can get things ready and lined up, then being away for a few days is completely feasible. And it's about kind of knowing those toll gates and just making sure that the tasks are complete either before or right after. So that's the primary difference with being a deal sponsor, is just, I think, having that very solid predictability in seasonal and monthly recurring tasks that allow you to plan your vacations and plan your workload.
Yeah. Actually, as we're speaking, I know one of our syndicators just flew to the Maldives, and he's closing a deal at the same time. So I found that, I was like, that's the kind of freedom that comes along with this business.
Oh, absolutely. You bet.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking about traveling, both of you love traveling. I mean, you're literally in the aviation space, and I mean, you fly an airplane to go on date nights. So tell us a little bit more about that level of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is a get up and go or a lock and leave mentality. I mean, we don't really have to put too much thought behind it. A lot of our weekends, and now especially since we have our daughter who's joined the family this past year, most weekends it's a Friday afternoon, and we'll say, okay, where do we want to go this weekend? And it truly is the ultimate freedom, because the mountains of Colorado is a short 2.5-3 hour flight. The Gulf Coast is a 2-hour flight. And if we really want to spend some time in the airplane, I can get all the way back to our hometowns in like 4 hours. So it truly is. We're very fortunate to have that ability, and it definitely coincides very well with a lifestyle business such as real estate.
Nice. Was that always a dream of yours to fly an airplane? I mean, it seems like something that many young men or boys dream of.
Yeah, I had been flying flight simulators and going to the airport to watch airplanes take off and land since I was, probably since before I could walk. And I got my pilot's license before I could drive a car. I was always very serious about it. And I can still remember my mom driving me to the airport to go fly an airplane by myself before I could actually drive my own vehicle to the airport. So yeah, started very young, and Wanted to fly as a commercial pilot for many years, but ended up taking a different path and going to engineering school. So just a life decision there. And but I followed up on some of my passion. I recently ended up becoming a commercial pilot and getting a flight instructor's rating, so I can teach people now. And
Nice.
it's just a phenomenal thing to learn how to do. And I always tell people, if you even have the slightest interest, you'll never regret learning.
I bet. I bet. It seems like such a freedom. I mean, to move in the air, and you can, as you said, you're like the world becomes so much smaller if you have
So
that
much
choice
smaller. Hmm.
to just take off. I always feel a sense of freedom, regardless. If I just even if I sit in the back seat on a commercial plane, I feel like there's an additional layer of freedom to my life. I'm like, yeah, whenever I want to, I can pick up and go somewhere.
100%. Totally
So
agree.
your feeling about that level of freedom must be even the next level. So Emily, how do you feel about that, sitting on the co-pilot seat and now with your little daughter in the airplane? I'm sure that must be pretty exciting.
I love it. Our first date was in an airplane. So for some reason, I've trusted him over the past 11 years as a pilot. And I have a passion for it. I don't have my pilot's license, but I completely trust him 100%. So our baby has flown with him since she was about 4 weeks old. And
Whoa.
we bring her and in the car seat, strap in the car seat, and we all go on adventures. So
Nice.
it's I'm happy to be a part of it.
It's a big aviation family. Everybody's a fan of airplanes. Nice, nice. I love it. So tying it kind of back into life, and how do you think does mindset apply to actually creating that level of freedom where you're at, not only in terms of finances, but I'm sure it took you quite some application resilience and a lot of hard work to get where you are now. Like it's probably nothing that happens overnight, as many of the other schemes might sell things.
Yeah, I would say at the foundational level where we started our business in the single family space, which I think can be applied across different asset classes. It's For us, it was just chipping away one investment at a time. And uh, financially, what that looked like was if it was a rehab or a fix and flip, let's see if we can make 20, 30, $40,000 and rinse and repeat. And
Yeah.
we would try to create a steady pace of that. And of course, when you're generating that type of income, um, depending on where you are in life, that might be a lot. It might not be a lot. But for us, it was more about experience and building the balance sheet. And for every 2 or 3 homes that we acquired to do a fix and flip on, we would keep as a rental. So we started to build up just a small rental portfolio, and slowly but surely, and to your point, it took several years to really
Yeah.
notice the impact financially, to see that this is going in a direction that we could sustain as a lifestyle, as a business. And then you reach a point, which I think many folks do in their business, and they say, okay, well, what we've been doing has been great. We've gotten great experience. We've built up a balance sheet, but it's just not happening fast enough. You almost get to a point where you're like, yes, I know there must be some other way to take this skill set, to take this knowledge, and to build on the lifestyle, the freedom lifestyle. Because as a single family home investor, you're more or less a landlord. It's another full-time job, so to speak. And so that's when we got into multifamily.
And I would say, to give an example from both single family and multifamily, the hardest part in both businesses is finding the deal. And so there was a mindset of you keep trying and you don't get discouraged when it doesn't happen, but you also make adjustments. And so my examples from single family is we used to send out yellow letters to owners. And for a while there'd be some mailings where you'd get no responses, and then some mailings where you'd get 1 or 2 leads that would turn into a flip house. But the market shifted eventually, and we had to make a change around 2017-ish to Google AdWords and Bing ads. Like, it was, the yellow letters weren't working anymore, and we had to make that change to continue getting deals coming in. On the multifamily side, we were making offers our very first year, and we hadn't gotten a deal yet. And the feedback from the brokers was that our earnest money wasn't strong enough, or this wasn't strong enough. And so each offer, we would have to make little adjustments and go stronger on the earnest money, go stronger on a little bit shorter due diligence time frame. But eventually, once we got that feedback that our earnest money wasn't strong enough, the next deal, we said, okay, we're going all in on earnest money, and we upped our game, and that ended up being the one that we won. And so that was our first deal, our first syndication in the multifamily space. So there was really a mindset of like, we're not going to give up, but we are going to adjust and make those changes that we need to make sure that we're going to be successful.
So it takes some faith and kind of leaning into the learning curve and just trusting that it will eventually yield. And I think that's one of the challenges having an entrepreneurial mindset is you really lean into a space of the unknown. And I think that might be very scary for many people. So did that come natural to you? Or given that you started out in the corporate world where things are rather black and white and set up and there are existing systems, was it a challenge for you to kind of lean into the unknown? Or were you so hungry for a different life and living life on your terms that you were just like willing to walk through that valley?
I think at the onset, it is very difficult, especially the way that we were raised, where, you get a paycheck every couple of weeks, you have your expenses, you have your obligations. And the thought of putting yourself in financial risk or adding drama to your financial situation is just so far from the comfort zone that I think that, to your point, that's one reason a lot of folks don't take on their entrepreneurial dreams, is because there is a very real risk that you could end up in a very difficult place financially. But in the same breath, that's where a lot of people experience very, very magical things, and it may not even be financially, it may be lifestyle or something involving their passion. And so for us, when it came time, and I know exactly when it was, again, being the landlord, flipping the homes, something that was more or less a learning experience that we became very comfortable with. But yes, when we did get into the multifamily space, that was a different world for us. And now, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars of financial risk that we were putting forward in order to do these deals. And it was nerve-wracking at first. I wouldn't lie. It was like, oh my gosh, this is something that we were not taught to do. We were not raised. It's not something that we're comfortable with. However, there comes a time when you're working in the corporate world that you just know it's not what you're meant to do. And for me, anyway, speaking personally, that's what helped me get over that anxiety is, well, I know that this door I'm about to open is what I am meant to do. So,
and going back to Adam's mention on spreadsheets and tracking expenses, we've been tracking our expenses since we started dating over a decade ago. So we knew how much we needed to bring in an income to, just make enough to live on, and not have to move back in with mom and dad. So we had line of sight with that when he quit his job and we were going on no paychecks, just real estate income. We knew that we needed to bring in X amount of money a year so that we could pay all the bills. And that was the minimum. And once we had line of sight to that from our first multifamily investment, that's when he put in his 60-day notice.
But I mean, you also went about it very methodical. I mean, I guess given that you have an engineering background, and you have the number crunch in your blood, we're like, okay, line in sight. And as you said already, Emily was already in it full time, and you kind of really knew your like bottom line on the, and you just managed moving in with the parents. Would that have been an option, like in terms of maybe your personal brow and like, hey, we really want this to work, and if we have to move in back home, we will do it?
Probably not. We would have gone back to corporate first and gotten a paycheck.
Yeah, it does. But to your point, Hans, it does shift your mindset a bit, right? It makes you think bigger. It makes you think about what you really want to do in this limited life that we have. And
Yeah.
it might be a little extreme to say, hey, living with mom and dad isn't so bad. But yeah, and not to say that any of us hate our jobs or hated working in corporate, but when you know that it's not your life's work or your life's passion or what you're meant to do, it becomes just a little bit easier to stomach the unknown.
How did you identify that particular feeling? Like knowing that stepping away from this means stepping into your passion or what you're meant to do. I think that's something which is quite a process for many people. How did that come to you?
I think for me, it was a little bit easier than for Emily.
Yeah, I never had an entrepreneur upbringing or role model, I would say, in my life. And so it was very uncomfortable for me to quit my job and go into the real estate space. And it was I mean, that's why I always knew in the back of my head that if it didn't work out, I can go back to what I know. I can go back to engineering, aerospace. But I had a lot of minds, I struggled with, I'm going from an engineer to a realtor, and to me, I was like, what did I go to college for? I'm not throwing it away, but I'm redirecting that path. And what I found when I did go into the real estate was that the skill sets that I had learned from corporate really, really transferred well to flipping houses and managing rentals, because it's all project management. And instead of managing machinists and assemblers and sheet metal formers, I'm managing painters and roofers and foundation guys. So what I found was that the similarities that I could excel, and that it was within my wheelhouse to very successfully manage these projects and buy the properties. And so it started opening my eyes to like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like, this is going to work out. The ball started rolling, and within, I would think, 1.5 to 2 years, I said, there's no way I'm going back. This is it.
And I guess the upside is just so much bigger. Like for you, it was obvious, like, okay, Adam can cover the bills. I will lean into the unknown, because the upside is basically exponential, while the downside is very linear. It's like, okay, I'll have to go back to corporate.
That's very good. Yeah, and I mean, for me, observing her was very inspirational too, because it helped me realize that what I was doing at the time, still working in corporate, it just further validated that I'd rather be working with her in the business. So it was kind of a two-pronged thing there, where I could she could get comfortable, to your point, and really lean into it, and then I could observe and say, you know what, I really, really like what she's doing, and it further validates that I'm not doing what I should be doing, and so let's get to where we need to be.
That's very, very nice. So now you're 5 years into your multifamily journey, a decade into your real estate journey. Where are you going to take this from here? Like, what are your maybe 5 or 10 years goals? Like, what's your vision for A&E multifamily and your personal life?
I think we both share the goal and mindset of further continuing the lifestyle and flexibility that multifamily can give us. Today, we're fortunate to be partners with another very successful couple in the multifamily space, and we do a lot of deals together. And today, I think the four of us are really building a great foundation, and for ourselves, for our investors, for the tenants of the properties. However, I do know that with that foundation, just as we had proven in the years past, is continuing to build a level of flexibility. And I know that Emily and I both share that desire to continue to strive for an even more flexible lifestyle. What that looks like could take on many forms, but maybe someday down the road we'll be fully passive investors and just let a portfolio kind of carry our wealth legacy. I think that's along the lines of what we'd like to see.
Mm-hmm. We have a colleague who we benchmark, and he takes his family on a lot of nature trips, whether it's through it with an RV or spending a lot of time in nature. But he still is able to work remotely from his laptop and phone. And his rule is by 1 p.m. every day the laptop closes, and then they can go
Yeah.
on hikes and they can eat dinner together. And so, like Adam mentioned, just an increased level of flexibility where there's still a element of being connected, but it's only maybe a certain number of hours a day, certain days of the week. And as we build up our business, you build in leverage points to make you physically being there not a necessity for every aspect of the business.
So are you planning to extend your in-house team and that you maybe have somebody who manages those more immediate requests so that you have more freedom around that and basically leverage someone else's time?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We currently, on our extended team, we currently have 2 employees, and then we're looking to add a third. And so that's part of the vision, is to have the business run itself. And at the end of the day, really just focus in on that generational wealth legacy that we can, have for the remainder of our lives, and then we can pass on to our children's lives and things of that nature.
That's an interesting point. So I hear a lot about generational wealth in real estate space, but generally in the space. And then at the same time, there is a conversation about not transferring too much wealth to children. What's like your personal take on that? Like, because it seems that there is some of the experiences we have, the hardships we have, they create character, and that maybe transferring too much of the good is kind of preventing that or personal growth. What's your take on that?
I would love to teach her about entrepreneurship in general. One of the things your question makes me think about an example that was in the Rich Dad training back when we took it in California. And the teacher was talking about his teenage son, and his teenage son wanted a little fishing boat, and it was going to cost him $200 a month on a payment. And the dad said, well, go buy a rental property, and that rental property will bring in $200 a month, and that rental property will pay for your boat payment. And that example has stuck with me because I feel like those are the kind of lessons that we can teach our children, and this was something that I never learned as a child, was that there are income producing assets that can help pay for the things that you want in life. And if you want a motorcycle, I rode motorcycles for 10 years when I was younger. If she wants to buy a motorcycle and the payment's going to be $200 a month, maybe we encourage her to go buy a rental property or some kind of income producing asset that will then pay for that.
I mean, I guess my mom didn't know about the income producing asset. She just told me to save my way up to it. And then usually by the time I saved my way up to it, I didn't want it anymore, which is also a good lesson.
Exactly. That's a good trick.
It's like I want a little RV plane, and then 2 years later, when I had the money, I was like, "Oh, do I really want to spend all that hard-saved money on the RV plane now?"
Makes you think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering about those life lessons, and there's like Joe Rogan and others who are always debating, like, man, I feel like all the toughness, the resilience I have is because I went through these experiences. But now my children grow up in that abundance, and it's like, so where's that character build? And I think that's further down the road for the two of you. You're still enjoying like the toddler age.
Yeah. At this point, I just want her to be out in nature, outside, playing in the creeks, playing in the trees, and just exploring.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's like the best playground for a child. So I think this is a perfect like point to ask you, like, what does it mean to have a life well lived kind of on your terms for the two of you?
Well, I think for us, it centers around family. I know that's kind of a repeat of what I said earlier, but it starts with family because the two of us are extremely close with even our extended families. And so that's been something that we've grown up with. And regardless of wealth, success, failure, you name it, that is one thing that I know I always want to be part of our lives and our lifestyle. So that's, for me, that's number one. And then number two, and now that we have a daughter of our own, it's kind of the points that we made earlier. I want to make sure that we're creating that loving environment for her, and teaching her that while it's important to be a successful and participating member of society, there's ways to live your life, and you can be adventurous and dream big and have everything that you could possibly want, but coming with the proper work ethic and things of that nature. So.
And for me personally, the biggest benefit I've seen from creating that financial freedom and mixed with building up the business has been the realization that I can take my time in life. I can, if I want to go to the gym from 8 to 9 in the morning, like the work is there, the work will get done. And it's about having that a healthy lifestyle and a healthy mindset, and having that stress level, just saying this, I said I work plenty of hours during the week, but it may not always be in that 9 to 5 space. So I'm going to take the time to make a healthy meal. I'm going to take the time to go to the gym, and I will make sure I'll also take the time to get my job done. But having that personal balance for me is the healthiest thing that we can do for ourselves and our families to just have the best mindset and the best health to move forward. Yeah,
I agree. It resonates a little bit with you have to fill your own cup first in order to pour into others.
That's right.
And I think like the way you take care of yourself, it really amplifies that, and then you can go out and serve others in the immediate family or in the community. Well, thank you, Emily and Adam. This was very lovely, and thanks for sharing your personal story and kind of the journey and the mindset it took over the last decade to get yourself where you are today and have all the learnings that you shared with us. So thank you so much for your time. And where can people connect with you? Where can they find out more about you?
We have a website, aemultifamily.com, and that's the best way to get in touch.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your time. This was lovely.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us at the Path to Wealth. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out our upcoming guests and be sure to share it with all your friends and family that want to take their life to the next level of wealth.